Are we ready now?
Yes.
All right. I call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this Tuesday, July 7, 2015, at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It is now 6 p.m. Welcome to those few that are here. We hope this will be a short meeting, too. Would you join us for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Are there any changes?
So moved.
All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, we have a presentation of a donation. I know the picture's been taken. Who's going to make that presentation? It's to the fire department, right?
Yes, sir, to the association.
All right, well, come on up and say something.
You know me, I always have plenty to say.
Remember now, we're trying to keep it a short meeting.
I understand, and I will be brief. This all started because Robbie bought 2 tickets to the dinner at Seascape Golf Course after the golf tournament and whatnot. And we didn't realize this whole raffle, blind raffle, whatever it was, that we were gonna actually win money. And then we got a phone, he got a phone call from Lowell, or I guess from you, that we had won $933.33, which we had to pick up, and there's just no way we can't give it back to them. You needed a heck of a lot more than we do, so there's our ill-gotten gambling winnings.
There you go. Good enough.
And thank you on behalf of the association members.
Yeah, and thank you on behalf of the town of Kitty Hawk.
Yeah.
Please pass that on. That's the right way to do it. Huh? That's the association, that's the reason.
Yes, sir.
I got you. I'm with you. All right. Next, we have public comment. Anybody want to speak at public comment? Anybody signed up? Okay. Let the record show no one came forward. Next, we have consent agenda. Any changes to the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Wake up, everybody. All right.
We both did it last time.
Yeah.
So I was doing him and you was.
Opposed? There are no opposition. The consent agenda is approved. All right. We had nothing removed. Now we have a public hearing. Do you hear a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. We're now in public hearing for a text amendment to wireless communications facilities. Give us something brief for us, please.
The proposed amendments to the wireless communication facilities ordinance is intended to just bring the town's standards into compliance with state and federal regulations. Recently adopted Federal Telecommunications Act and the NC Cell Tower Deployment Act. This had been worked on in the planning board since I think August through October last year, and then it was brought to council prior to me starting and sent back with a few corrections. I think we've addressed all of the grammatical issues and stuff in it. And, just a brief rundown of the changes. There's a couple of new definitions in there. Eligible facilities request on page 3 and substantial modification on page 4. Along with these changes, certain types of projects that used to be approved through planning board and town council review now have to be done administratively if it's not a substantial modification. And it's also adjusted the time frame in which the review takes place. I think it went from 30 to 45 days now. The second issue being changed is, let's see, it's restricting the types of information that can be requested by the planning board and council. The planning board and council are no longer allowed to request any type of information about a company's business or why they're requesting a certain location for their facility. If they decide that they need a new tower at a certain location, the board and council can't question the decision of that location. We just have to review it. If it's coming as a conditional use permit, we can still deny it if it doesn't meet the requirements for the conditional use, but we can't question their decision on where they're proposing the tower to be. Third deals with consultants. Many communities choose to use consultants to review the wireless communication facilities. Typically, the consulting fees were paid by the applicant in the past. State legislation has now put a cap of $1,000 on the amount that the community can charge an applicant for the consulting service. Also, the review fee cannot be used to reimburse the consultant for any travel or other incidental expenses. It's only for the actual work performed. So any consulting costs above $1,000, if we go for a consultant, would be paid by the town. Fourth one deals with routine maintenance. Municipalities and counties are no longer allowed to review routine maintenance on wireless structures. And in addition to that, the state also redefined what we think of as routine maintenance. It now includes the replacement of existing facilities with like facilities. So one can be torn down and completely rebuilt as long as it's about the same height and footprint and all that, and that would not come under town review. It's considered routine maintenance now. 5, the siting hierarchy has been stricken from the ordinance. If the company's looking to locate a tower, they find the place that they prefer, and like I said a minute ago, we can't question their choice of location anymore. And lastly, the approval process. The changes added the approval process and timeframes for the town's review consistent with the state law. I think I mentioned that one from 30 to, I think, 45 days, and that's been addressed in the ordinance. And I guess one thing to point out that came up during the planning board review, like prior to me getting here, is even if the town doesn't make the changes to the ordinance, we still have to follow the state and federal regulations, or face a possible lawsuit, I guess, if we do question somebody's location or anything like that. I guess with that, I can open it up to questions.
So we can't question a location that they desire. What would it take to deny a location if council found it undesirable?
I would have to look at the conditional use, depending on which zoning district it would be in. If there's anything about has to be so many feet from a residential area, scenarios like that.
Fall zones, things like
Right,
that.
right.
Okay, so,
I think they still have to abide by your zoning regulation.
Right.
Yeah, so they can't say we're gonna put a big tower,
Mhm.
In a residential zone if it's not allowed.
we just can't ask why you want it there.
Right.
Yeah.
A specific
But
property.
everything else, as far as we know, pretty much applies to fall zones and anything else that go with it. All right. All right, anybody else have a question for the planner? No?
Well, I have a question. It doesn't have to do with the public hearing, but it was in the background information. Should I ask it now or just wait? until
You
we
can ask
discuss?
it now.
Okay, and it had to do with, because of the complexity of this ordinance, and I would certainly raise my hand and agree that this thing is, looks like it was written by the IRS. But anyway, it says the staff is currently developing a sample application that will be available to applicants. As the sample is not part of what is being adopted into code, it's not necessary to include it, but I just wondered how that's coming along.
when I first picked this up and started working on it, I was able to make a little progress, and then just kind of gotten put to the back burner a little bit. It shouldn't take more than another couple hours of work to get a sample application put together for it. I can certainly email that to the council as soon
No,
as it's ready.
I was just curious, because this is really a pretty
Yeah,
complex
it-
thing.
yeah.
And the other part of that is, we really don't have anybody right now that is wanting to do this, to your
There's-
knowledge, or?
There was one that Joe had told me that was in discussion some time ago, and it was, I think from what he said, they would come in and ask some questions and then wouldn't hear anything for 3-4 months, and they'd come and ask a couple more questions. So since I've been here, I haven't heard anything more from them.
Okay.
But evidently there is possibly one out there.
And where they were asking questions was an area that probably wouldn't be desirable, so we want to be kept informed of that.
Okay.
All right, anybody else?
But, and so I can understand this, if zoning doesn't allow it to go there, they still have to go through and meet air criteria for putting something.
What was that?
If it's not zoned, in other words, they couldn't go to a residential area where was not allowed and still put one there, although we cannot deny them a location, that's kind of,
Well, I think it still has to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. You know, if it's not allowed in residential zone, they can't, as I understand it, they can't come say they're gonna put one in the residential zone and we can't do anything about it. I think it would still have to go in the zones that are, you know, that allow it. We just can't say, well, you know, why would you go for this property as opposed to this one that's in the same zoning district? I think as long as it meets our zoning regulations, then we don't have, you know, we don't have any say on what property it goes in.
Do we need to make sure that we have that in our residential and,
I believe it is. I'll double
okay,
check.
it is?
It should be,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
because they, you know, when they put in Southern Shores, we're at the Y there. I mean, it's right there.
But Southern Shores let them do that.
Yeah, and they needed it because there was a
Yeah.
dead spot there. Yeah.
But all I'm hearing is we can't say, you know, why did you want to do that? But we can certainly say it's not meeting some other criteria.
Right.
Okay, all right. Anybody signed up? Yes. Anybody want to speak to this? Let the record show no one came forward. Do I hear a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, folks, we're back in regular session. What do you want to do with this? I'm ready to get rid of it.
Oh, not any more than I am. I would like to recommend that I never see this again. But my motion is, I move to adopt the proposed text amendment to update Chapter 40, Article 3 of the Town Code with revised standards for wireless communications facilities. Town Council finds that the proposed text and amendment is consistent with the town's adopted CAMA land use plan and finds this amendment to be in the public interest by maintaining standards that protect the public's interest to the greatest degree possible while remaining in compliance with state and federal laws.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we won't see this anymore. All right, we're already down to the town manager. John, what you got for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to briefly bring council up to date on where we're at with our beach nourishment project with coastal planning. They completed 98.6% of the scope of work as of May 1st of this year. The work thus far includes project management, coordination with agencies on environmental documents and permit applications submitted, development of engineering report, and finalizing offshore sand source investigation and bar area design report. On April 28th of this year, the Coastal Planning and Engineering met with the mayor, myself, Public Works Director, and Finance Officer, and discussed the easements, permit applications, and beach accesses for construction. During April, Coastal Planning and Engineering continued coordination with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on environmental issues. They also are finalizing the major CAMA permit application and presented to town staff the offshore and investigation report. Also, I'd like to mention to council that the staff has been working on getting out the easement agreements. We had the final documents prepared by Mr. Michael and his staff, and we finally got those prepared. We have sent out 100 of those easement agreements, and we've been starting to get some back in through the mail. We do still have the parcels that are south of historic. I understand we have to do the title searches on those. Those are the ones that were done by the county before. We have to do the title searches on those, and Mr. Michael and his staff are working on that. So anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Is everything north of historic going out in the mail?
Everything yes, everything north of
So all
historic.
we lack is south of
South
historic?
of historic, that's the ones that were,
And that's in your ballpark?
yes.
All right. Any kind of a timetable?
The title clerk said something to me yesterday. She wasn't kind about it, but she's working on it.
All right. Well, lawyers deserve that sometimes.
I was
don't
afraid to ask her for a time yesterday.
they? All right. All right.
I got one question for John. Once we get all of these easements, assuming that we do, this lasts for, any kind of update or maintenance work that has to be on the Beach Nourishment Project, or do we?
No, these
We're
will
not
cover
gonna-
it.
this
These
is
these
just
are
gonna-
perpetual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
in perpetuity,
So-
yeah. Yes, they're in perpetuity, yes.
So, next time, next time we'd have to do title searches again, because,
No.
like we're doing for the county
Nope.
ones? No? Okay.
The county project was different enough.
They
that-
drew a line,
Oh.
and that line doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Our line is the middle of the road.
Oh,
It nearly was there for a little bit, wasn't it? That's for sure. All right, Steve, do you have anything for us?
I don't have anything for you other than what we'll take in closed session.
All right, town council, and I will tell you that Craig Garris had to go to Beaufort Hospital for something associated with his work, so that's why he's absent tonight. But he did let me know that. He's trying to make his way back, but we may be finished before he gets here. All right, Jeff, you got anything for us?
I don't.
Yes, sir.
no,
All right, I don't know if any of you have seen it or not, but there are survey stakes at the corner of the Overton property. And I did stop and talk to the surveyors, and they said that they didn't know who the new owner was going to be, but it would be a tear down. And I guess it's just taking legal time and closing and whatever. So if anybody asks you that question, that's the proper answer as far as I know. All right, now we come into public comment. Anybody want to speak at this public comment? Let the record show no one came forward. Now we need to go into closed session for two items, and it's to prevent disclosure of information and two different things that we need to take up with the attorney. Do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
I move to go into closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to the law of this state or of the United States, or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes, to approve closed session minutes of March 3rd, 2014 and May 4th, 2015, and in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to protect the attorney-client privilege in the town of Kitty Hawk versus Ann Greason doing business as Winks.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We are now in closed session. Thank you, folks, for being present.